Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's Metaworld News. Indeed, it is our headlines for the week ending. I've forgotten it already. No, that is not the case. 23rd of September, 2018. Yes, this is the week ending of this today. Sort of. I'm getting confused, aren't I?
Not terribly.
Okay, I think I better resort to the news. Resorting to the news and no longer confused. There's a rhyme there somewhere. Right. My name is Mal Burns. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Malburns, Malburns, but all one word. And there's also twitter.com/Metaworld News, which takes its name from this show. Both of those feeds have various links in them, and most of the stuff I'm reading out today is cold from those feeds. So if you miss any link or I'm unable to read it to you, just go to one of those feeds and you can easily catch up. Okay, doke. Well, I'm going to start with the sort of mainstream news, as it were, the stuff on the Malbones feed. Um, I posted a couple a few minutes ago. Actually, they were reposted from another place from where I normally post from. So it's down as half an hour ago, but I think it was a bit older than this. So Williams writing in theguardian.com. So that's the Guardian, or one word.com. Fit in my 40s. It's not Grand Theft Auto thrilling, but VR running is incredible. So Williams apparently has discovered the art of running in virtual reality. Um, Basically, it's all about keeping fit. Um, she says training on the exercise bike is famously boring. And then going in virtual reality, and she's enjoying running in virtual reality. So yeah, she tells you all about it and all the kit she's got and how much it cost. And well, if you're interested, go check that out. Creating virtual reality journalism: a guide for best practices. Now, this is an article at pbs.org. Basically,
Oh, okay.
best practices for virtual reality journalism. And I was testing this one out, so you'll forgive me if it's right at the top of the list here. ABC7Chicago.com. So that's ABC, the letters, 7 the numeral, and then Chicago, the city, but all one word. So it's AB7Chicago.com. Rather awkward.
It's a
Now, although it's
television station.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, despite being in Chicago, the article is about Toronto. And in Toronto, there is a businessman who's brought, wait for this. Oh, no, sorry. I'm going to start again. The businessman comes from Toronto, but the thing itself is in Texas. I will just read the headline and let you laugh your head off. Toronto businessman brings sex robot brothel to Texas.
Yeah.
I
That
think you.
is funny.
I think you get the drift. You know, got to stick an amusing headline in sometimes, haven't we? Okay, Caitlin over at High Fidelity, by the way. She's her Twitter account is Caitlin Meeks. As a post up, she's looking for video. Well, she calls them VTubers. To well, she says to help stream the next High Fidelity stress test. Um, it was actually I didn't see this initially. Philip posted it in another channel. I'm not quite sure whether they want a lot of people streaming on multiple channels or whether they just want to test out streaming capacity when they're stress testing an event anyway. I mean, the question being, can you film 500 avatars at the same time and broadcast them? I'm not quite sure, but Caitlin put that little thing out. So um, that 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 actually even that might even interest you, James. Come to think of it, the stress tests are moving to Saturdays. So it
Oh,
is
okay.
the high fidelity tests now are happening instead of Friday night. They're happening on Saturday daytime, if I recall. Philip held a little poll, and I never heard the results of the poll, but somehow it changed.
It works better for people.
Okay.
Okay, yep.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Best for some, worse for others, but they've decided Saturday's a good day to do it. So good to know that some people in San Francisco turn up to work on Saturdays from now on. Right, VRScout.com has a post, virtual reality and language learning, how VR can crack the language code. That was about 3 days ago at VRScout.com. And virtuality-news.net has an article about 5G technologies, which of course are the next standard in Wi-Fi and basically communication technologies. But the article specifically says how 5G technologies will drive the adoption of AR and VR. Whether higher speeds is really going to drive adoption. I'm not quite sure. When apart from maybe wireless, I think we sort of have the speeds already to drive, adoption if that was needed. Obviously, 5G and mobile speed will help a lot. But anyway, article there. Tap Strap wearable keyboard gains support for VR applications. This is a post at digitaltrends or oneword.com. Um, Last year, Tap Systems released what is called the future of computing, a wearable keyboard that allows you to type with a single hand by slipping your fingers through 5 internetic rings, etc. Well, apparently this wonderful wearable keyboard now has gained support for VR applications. So if you're stuck in a headset and can't see your keyboard, you can slip your fingers through the internet rings of this wearable one. Gosh golly. Anyway, find out more about that at digitaltrends.com. Um, Voices of VR. This must be, I can tell by the title, even though the link is wrong. So voicesofvr.com, this will be. Um, Number 698, Universal Mind and Quantum Mechanics, Idealism as Fundamental Consciousness and Virtual Reality. Yep, the titles of some of these podcasts are phenomenal because appropriately, number 697, the one before it, is a tour of phenomenological, sorry,
Yep.
phenomenological philosophers
That sounds
and,
right.
embo-
That's
and
philosophy, right?
and embodied insights into VR.
Mm-hmm.
So go figure. Between those two, you got a handful of long words. I suspect you might want to go and arm yourself with a dictionary before listening to these podcasts, but they're on track, if you see what I mean. 5 days ago, let's see, Sony, uploadvr.com was the first to mention this. A patent from Sony suggests the company's next PlayStation VR headset will take the fight to simulation sickness. Apparently, it's a patent filed in 2017, but I guess just granted. It's basically Sony have designed and thus patented a VR headset that combats simulation sickness, and the link contains little diagrams, which I guess are the sort of thing you have to file when you're patenting things, showing exactly how they do it. They've got, look at all this. It's got a gyroscope, a moisture sensor, a thermometer, an accelerometer, and all sorts of nibs and knobs and wires and cables and stuff as well. So you can see it in the sort of schematic there. Anyway, if you're suffering from simulation sickness in your headset, maybe you should wait until Sony's new one arrives and see if it helps you, if you really want yet another expensive headset. Right, VR's killer apps will be created by the next generation of developers. Well, that is kind of an obvious statement, isn't it, really? The next generation always develops the next killer apps, doesn't it? I think. Upload VR. Have a report on all that. Uploadvr.com. Um, VR has had its share of fits and spurts in recent years. Yes, give me some spurting VR.
Oh,
Technology
gracious.
is technology is just now at a level to consistently bring a developer's vision to life. And of course, it's got a lovely picture of the kids Yeah, well, they look to be like girls. Well, the ones in the foreground look to be girls. They're all wearing Oculus headsets and clunky headphones and everything else. And I swear, I mean, my guess is that they're about 5 years old, kind of range, all on their laptops, fully kitted out. And these apparently are the next generation of developers. Oh, it's so cute, actually. It really is. There is one boy in the picture, but he's in the Oculus Rift, but he seems to be looking out the window instead of his screen. So, well, that's what the boys do, doesn't it? There's a cute little girl in the middle with her hand up in the air. And then, yeah, you know what people in virtual reality look like when they can't see what you can see them doing. Okay, back to Voices of VR, believe it or not. 695, diversity training and testing for implicit bias with DBS VR. Well, not so many long-winded words in that one, but yeah, another thing. That was back on Monday, if I recall. Um, Oh, rather interesting this, complete with the photograph. This VR chair fights simulation sickness at the cost of hand controls. It's a a Texas-based company called Cambrian, and they also think they have a solution to VR simulators sickness, though the reviewer isn't entirely sure. Uh, the company unveiled. I'm going to open this one actually, just for give you a bit of additional information, which isn't in the synopsis. Uh, of course, being as the news desk is on a Windows machine, it's not exactly quick. Right, there we go. Bloody well it ought to be, but it isn't. Right, the photo, see, it's like a standing seat more than a seat, and the arms, there's a kind of arm rest there, and I gather when you're perched in this thing, you're comfortable, but you don't. You have an armrest, and the buttons that control the environments and stuff are actually built into the armrest, so you don't like have controllers in your hands or anything like that. But I've got to say, it looks rather nice. It's got a rather original name. It's called the VR chair. Yes. In fact, Jamie Felton, the reviewer here, I don't think he's actually totally convinced. He says there's just something in his language. The company this month unveiled the final prototype of what it calls the VR chair, which really isn't a chair at all. It's more like a support the user leans into, complete with armrest and house button for controlling games. More importantly, though, you can apply force to the armrest to move your virtual body forward and backward in any given environment. The company says this method of movement creates a much more natural sensation for your brain, eliminating motion sickness. And anyway, more information is available about that. Um, in the article, apparently it will support Rift 5, Windows VR, and PlayStation. Doesn't really say much about anything else. Anyway, as I say, the uniquely named VR chair. Wonder if they've patented that to stop anybody else doing a VR chair. Gosh, golly.
Mm-hmm.
South African project working to preserve Africa's past heritage in virtuality. This is at virtualitytimes.com. And unless I'm very wrong, that was on last week's show. Okay, 5 days ago, a bit more recent. Firefox Reality, Mozilla's VR web browser has launched on major standalone headsets. It's actually launched just about everywhere, including the Oculus Go and Google's Daydream. It's basically a version of everybody's favorite, well, second favorite or third favorite these days, I suppose. Who knows? Firefox, yes. But it's a web browser that's basically geared for VR. So the navigation metaphors and everything are what you would see in a headset rather than what you see on a 2D screen. And gone is the idea of I think you can speak the links or something. Anyway, it's sort of the idea is it's allows you to browse the web as you tend to do in things like Firefox, but using virtuality without the need for some of the more keyboard type things, 2D browsing. Built with web VR in mind, but it does support basic 2D browsing and immersive VR. So it it moves you seamlessly into web VR environments, basically, but it also presents in VR standard 2D stuff. Anyway, Mozilla usually ahead of the curve when it comes to web stuff, so there you go. And from all I can see here, yes, I have covered that feed more than adequately. Not the busiest of weeks. Um, I could have read it all out a lot quicker if it wasn't for them long words.
You
Right,
mean for
okay,
that
I'm gonna.
analogy?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Whatever. Right, my post. So I've got a feeling this is. No, it's not. Fine. Let's move word to the Metaworld stream here. Most of this is embedded videos. Um, another program this week from Endgame, which is a program, discussion program, but it's quite interesting actually. Although it's filmed in what maybe VR chat or something like that. It's not the um, most wonderful of environments, but the subject matter is good. And this one, they had the Yale Center for Health and Learning Games exploring the health potential of VR with Dr. Kim good with a doctor bloke. Right. That was on Wednesday, so the embed is on the our stream. Also, embedded on the stream, a blog from blog.highfidelity.com. 356 avatars together. I guess I reported this last week. I think the actual blog at High Fidelity's own site must have come up just after that. And oh, that seems to be it there. Oh no, it's just a jumbled up order, isn't it? 5 days ago, New World Notes, nwn.blogs.com. Article about most virtual worlds going backwards from Second Life's original single sharded vision. This was Hamlet, or whose blog it is, decided to write something up, but it was spot off by one of the comments on his blog anyway. And also, I've been following this quite a bit all week. Unfortunately, um, Second Life, well, the original Virtual Worlds, had something called SLU, which is SL Universe. This is a sort of chat forum and things like that. Well, they've closed down, but they haven't. In fact, all they've done, there was a lot of fuss about them disappearing and sad days, but actually they've just reinvented themselves as a site called Virtual Verse, virtual and then verse as in poetry, all one word though, and actually both V's are capitals in that. Um, Virtual Verse, I guess, is to the forum. There's a site that looks a bit. It's got a dark theme, but otherwise looks like SL Universe, and it's now called Virtual Verse, and it's full of the um, diverse writings of all the people who were part of it. It's actually one of Second Life's biggest blogs, if you can call it a blog. Um, Unfortunately, I long since got fed up with it because the people are posting articles, that have nothing to do with virtual worlds there, let alone Second Life. And when it gets into parties and stuff, too many of the wrong kind of posts and links have been posted there. Um, However, Virtualverse also has a Discord server, and I thought, well, I'll join the Discord server just to see what's happening there, because along with the name change, their focus is supposed to be across virtual worlds now, as opposed to just Second Life, which of course is becoming a somewhat dated platform, 15, 16 years on. And so the Discord channel at least does show signs of, sort of taking an interest in the virtual worlds. But unfortunately, it's a very busy Discord server already, because it seems that every post in the forums automatically gets reposted in Discord and vice versa. And some of the drivel coming out of the forum is probably going to make me leave their server. But anyway, probably worth trying out, especially if you're a fan of Discord or are wondering what's happened to the SL universe. And I think some of their offshoot things, like Snapzilla, the photo forum and stuff, is still continuing for the now, at least under the old name. But I guess they'll incorporate it all into one place eventually. So a little bit of fan news, as it were, there. Um, right, more high fidelity there. Okay. Well, for some extraordinary reason, don't even ask me why. Some links I know I posted here during the week have not shown up. I know what they are anyway. Um, I'm just going to very, very quickly try and locate my not there, our our own sort of company Slack, as it were. Oh, come on, Windows! It's called Click and Go. Right, no, click and not do anything seems to be the name of the game here today. Right, that's not very helpful. Okay, basically, Philip Rosedale interviewed one of the chief people over at Wired magazine, and it was a really, really interesting talk. It's about an hour long. That should be posted in Metaworld news feed. It doesn't seem to be there. I don't know why. And on Wednesday, there was also posted an edition of Inside the Avatar Studio, which is run by Rockcliffe University over in Second Life. They sort of look at interesting people. And Wednesday's show was an interview or conversation with none other than the legendary Pookie Amsterdam, who would be legendary just for that name, I think, if she wasn't otherwise. A very interesting lady is Pookie, and of course, to some extent, involved with machinima and broadcasting stuff. And I swear there was actually yes another. Oh yes, the other one was of course the End Game program, which I did manage to mention then. So yeah, over there we have those three things. I have no idea why they're not showing up on my list here. Okay, moving to your post, which is not necessarily my posts. Oh, I do love this one. Okay, this is basically a scan of Google Plus. I embedded this on Google Plus. I thought this was on Meta World News 2, maybe gone. Fred Fredericks, who runs the Outworlds installs and his own Outworld site and stuff. He's made a nice little movie this week called Bill and Ben in Open Sim. For those of you who don't know, Bill and Ben are a famous cartoony or propaganda children's TV. You know, back when I was a young whippersnapper, which is almost a century ago, isn't it? Oh, I know it. We had Bill and Ben then, although they were sort of puppet cameras on the BBC. You know, Bill and Ben, the Flat Pot Man, pop up little weed.
Wow.
Yeah, you can tell I'm going cuckoo, can't you? I remember that very well. Anyway, Frodo's actually done a little open sim cartoon of Bill and Ben. It's lovely and it's very foody. Um, so well worth watching that. I've definitely sent the post to Google Plus because I can see it in front of me, but it should technically be on the Metaworld news stream as well. Who knows? Who knows? Don't know where it's gone. Okay, well that actually seems to be about it. So I'm not going to read out from the other virtuality feed this week because I had a look at that before we came on air, and I sort of copied over a couple of things into the Twitter feed. So I covered those a little while ago. So I think that's about it. Any thoughts on all the stuff, James?
Well, I'm really interested in the tap strap. I'm have been
Oh,
frustrated by a couple of things, and as far as uh, being interacting in VR, and I think it's a very fascinating device. I think it's also interesting just for mobile devices in general. So I'm going to be watching the reaction to that, seeing if that actually functions in the way that the manufacturers are suggesting.
yeah. Right, there's so much stuff now. I saw in the shop, I wasn't going to trust it. It looked like some old take on the thing there. I think they're charging £15. It was like a thrift shop or something of a virtual keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's got a little projector that basically plonks a keyboard on any
Right,
surface for
right.
you.
Yep.
But I was actually looking at the two bits of it that you actually have to have sitting on your desk to do it, the projector bit and everything else. And I suddenly thought, well, actually, these two, they might be a different shape, but these two things combined are going to take just as much space as the bloody keyboard in the first
Right,
place.
right. Yep.
So I thought, oh, I'll pass on that because it might be a novelty, but if it was something that was like a tiniest little box that was nice and compact and meant I didn't need a keyboard, fair enough. But this didn't really quite seem to, it's more of an idea than a useful, um, you know,
Yeah.
um, variation.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah.
noted the article on diversity training, and I think that's so fascinating. That goes back to my own master's degree work. But I
Oh,
just have the impression people in virtual worlds are pretty adept at diversity anyway. So
yeah.
it's to take
I
advantage of that, you'd need to get people into virtual worlds.
exactly. I think it's a sort of education thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Mm-hmm.
it's you know, if somebody sets up a region in a virtual world out here on OpenSim or even expensively in somewhere like Second Life, and then wants to bring students in and do or whatever you call them, do diversity training, well, probably it's an ideal platform. But you've got to get all the people in and stuff like that. So it really needs to be part of a greater agenda, probably,
Yeah.
or
Yep.
have a good PR budget.
Right.
But as you say, people who gravitate to virtual worlds often do. They probably don't need that training because they're inclined that way
Have
anyway.
some degree of an
Um,
open mind, right? And we've talked about
yeah,
this before. The Professor Chris Milk and VR being an empathy machine. So it's a
yeah,
favorite
yeah,
topic of mine. Yep.
yeah. No, without doubt, it
Mm-hmm.
is. In all its forms. Right. Well, we will not actually be here next week. I will actually make sure that some news goes up if anything important breaks and needs to be updated. But we will be taking a week off and we'll be back, therefore, in 2 weeks' time with our news headlines. So, in saying goodbye, I won't say same time, same place next week. I will say same time, same place in 2 weeks. But
Yep.
for this 2 weeks only. So it's goodbye from. How did we do this? What was the version of Morecambe and Wise that word?
Mm.
It's goodbye from him,
And it's goodbye from him.
which is us.
Yep.
Yes.
The
See you next week plus one. Yeah. So next fortnight. Oh Lord. See you whenever. Bye all.
Okay, we're muted and the outro's playing. Oh boy. That's fine. Yeah, it covers it. Technically correct. Yep. Oh, okay. All right.